Hello, my name is Cheryl Meyer, otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse, and I am a health coach. I want to welcome you to my podcast, It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health. This is a weekly show that will share lifestyle changes that you can make to support your health yourself. Why do I want to share this information with you? 7 years ago, after being a business owner for 20 years, I woke up one morning in horrific pain where every bone and every joint in my body hurt. I went to the doctor. She ran lots of tests, and then she ran some more, and then she ran some more, and finally she called me and announced she was going to give me steroids, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with me and I should seek therapy. I knew something was wrong. I hurt. So she told me I would be on steroids for the rest of my life, and I refused that I was going to have a life of pain and pills. So why was I going to take steroids if there was nothing wrong with me? So I dug in and started researching, and I turned my business over to my staff. I found a functional doctor who confirmed that I had autoimmune disease. By making a series of significant lifestyle changes that I could do for myself, 5 years later, I had returned to relative health. The best part is that I am now 70, and I feel better now than I did when I was 50. I no longer hurt, which is huge. I will always have autoimmune disease, but losing the pain has been amazing. I went back to school at 67 and became a health coach because I want to share everything that I learned with others. And I wrote a book called It Feels Good to Feel Good, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reduce Inflammation, and Feel Great Again, as the manual I wished that I had had when I got sick, and my book has won 13 awards. So whether you want to future-proof your health and grow old with dignity and grace without dementia and chronic pain and disease, which you don't need to get, or whether or not you already have a chronic condition like autoimmune disease or cancer or heart disease, and you want to learn about what things you can do to improve your long-term health, or whether you want to improve the health of your families and raise healthy children, because 53% of our children have a chronic condition, I look forward to sharing all this information with you. I will tell you, it truly does feel good to feel good, so let's get started. I look forward to having you join me here every week, and I want to give you hope that if you have chronic pain or chronic disease, you can make changes that will improve your health. And if you don't want to go there, you're going to be fine if you listen to the show and put these things into work. I want to give you information so that you can grow old and have a better tomorrow. So thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Hello, welcome to another edition of It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health. If you watched my podcast last week, you know that we've been talking about depression. And this is part 2 on depression. In the first part, we talked about how to tell if somebody is depressed that's in your life, because you don't want to miss the signs. What started this all was I interviewed a young woman who was a very successful entrepreneur, but she was working 24/7, and she began to slide down under a dark cloud. And she didn't share it with her best friend, and little did she know, her best friend, who also had her own business, was also sliding down under a dark cloud. Well, her friend committed suicide, and it threw my guest's world completely upside down. And that's a Tell Me Your Story that will play around the same time that this podcast will play. But it made me stop and think, and I woke up in the middle of the night and thought, I haven't really dealt with moods and how lifestyle habits impact moods. And I actually have 2 people in my life when I was growing up who are very dear family members who struggled with depression and both ended up committing suicide. And it's really, really difficult for those that are left behind because of the amount of guilt that is left behind with it. Now, in those days, the solutions were antidepressants, and antidepressants are still the main solution. It is the second most prescribed medication, second to statins, which is the number one most prescribed medication. So what I thought I would do is first talk about antidepressants, what they do, how they impact the body. I'm not saying don't take them. For God's sakes, if you have gone to see someone and that's their solution right now, go on the pills. But know that if you start to make the lifestyle changes that I'm about to talk about in this podcast, you might be able to get yourself off the antidepressant before you have to start increasing the dosage, because after a while the antidepressant doesn't work right anymore. And so you get more and more and more of it. And so the things I'm going to talk about are things you don't need anybody's permission for. You can just add them to your life on your own and make a difference, because what you eat and your lifestyle habits are directly connected from your gut to your brain by your vagus nerve. So pay attention to this. If you have been somebody who's been under a cloud and you don't want to share it with other people, I recommend that you do share it. If it's from a trauma that you had as a child, I recommend that you get therapy so that you can talk that trauma out. If you think it's a chemical imbalance, which is the way that medicine has always approached depression, then you go see the psychiatrist who might put you on the antidepressant. But no matter what direction you choose to go in, these lifestyle habits will make a difference in your mood and your happiness. And so I think they're important to share with you. And I'm just going to sum up one more way. This all comes back to the same thing. No matter whether I'm talking about the heart or the gut or the liver or your lower intestines or your brain, it all comes down to the lifestyle habits that you can do to support your health, to support your future health, are all the same things. I'm going to talk a lot about which hormones are impacted that are making you have a dark mood and making you depressed. That might not be the same for your heart and your liver and all the other parts of your body, but the lifestyle changes are all the same. And so I'm hoping if you're listening to my podcast, each time you hear it, you adopt one more thing that you're willing to change because you're worth it and your health and your life depends upon it. Okay? So let's get started. What you want to do is be eating, you can probably say this with me, the rainbow of fruits and vegetables and protein that are either plant-based or animal-based. Now, if you eat an animal that's out in the field eating his own species-specific diet, I know that's a tongue twister, then you're eating what he's eating and you're still getting all those beautiful benefits of all the plants that he ate. So some meat is also good for you, but I want you to eat the rainbow because all those colors get together in your body, have a little party, create happy gut bacteria that then send a happy signal up the vagus nerve to your brain, turn off the hormones that are interfering with your happiness, and turn on all the hormones that create happiness in your brain and in your body. If you have happy gut microbes, it's because you're feeding on happy foods. If you're eating the standard American diet and all that crap, excuse my language, but that stands in my world for carbonated, refined, artificial, and processed. If that's what you're eating, then you have angry gut bacteria. And so they're not partying. They're sending nasty signals up to your brain that are dampening all your feel-good hormones and starting to create that cloud that you're living under. So work your depression from both ends. And if you have a friend that's under a dark mood, we talked at length about how to recognize it last week so that you can be a true friend and support them while they find their solutions, which hopefully will include making these lifestyle changes. Okay? Serotonin, GABA, dopamine, all get impacted by what goes up your vagus nerve and into your blood and your liver that are creating new and healthy cells. Lowering inflammation also improves mood. So inflammation isn't just all the pain I got in my joints and my muscles when I got autoimmune disease. It's not just the puffiness and the indigestion and all the stuff going on in my lower intestine when I was on my way to getting sick. It's also your moods. And so whatever is ailing you, this is important information for you to pay attention to. You also need to be conscious of what you're feeding your gut microbes, and you need to be feeding them with prebiotics. Prebiotics are those hungry little devils. Your probiotics are hungry little devils that need to be fed by prebiotics. And prebiotics are onions and garlic and artichokes and jicama. They're things, bananas, plantains. They're things that are fibrous, that don't make you gain weight because they land in your gut, pick up a lot of the toxins that are in there that your liver's been trying to get rid of and looking for a way to get out of your body. The fiber grabs those and then delivers it out of your body. So make sure that you are eating enough prebiotics as well as taking probiotics and then eating all the right foods, which is the rainbow, to create a happy little party in your gut. The body's pretty amazing to me. And we have a beautifully tuned communication system that constantly is sending messages around the body. This communication system includes our hormones and our neurotransmitters. And a lot of what creates depression is our hormones when they're out of whack. Disease is being out of order. It's being disrupted. It's being interrupted. So you need to get your body back to health by stopping the interruption and start building the health. If your gut or any part of your body is out of tune, just like instruments in a symphony, disease happens. So think disruption, disease. Out of order, disease. Agita, disease. All the things that happen that are gut connected then get signals sent all over your body that create disorder, which is what becomes disease. Food and mood. There is a connection to depression and more. I want you to think nutrition when you're wondering why you're feeling a certain way. Now, when I get up in the morning, you've heard me say this before, I have a conversation with myself every morning. I look in the mirror and I go, hey, good morning, Cheryl. How are you feeling today? And then I get quiet and I let my body and my mind speak to me. It's important because if I am under a dark cloud in any way, if my mood is at all low, I'm like a little digital computer that goes through and goes, what the heck did I do yesterday that's creating this response in my brain? And I want you to do that as well. What I immediately make a decision to do is make sure that I get all the colors of the rainbow into my diet during that day, because I know that's going to impact my mood, maybe not in 24 hours, but in a fairly short period of time. So start there. Every mood is in response to a real situation, and it's moderated by major neurotransmitters, including MOA, which is monoamine oxidase, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. All are profoundly influenced by nutrition. They didn't know this before. This is actually fairly new science. But it's no surprise. I had a friend that was always depressed. I used to wonder why I woke up happy and she always woke up depressed. And I decided in some way it had to be chemical. Well, it is chemical, but it's sometimes caused by our lifestyle habits and by the foods that we're eating. So if you're only eating crap, you are not creating a happy environment in your tummy, and that's going to create an unhappy experience in your hormones and your mood. Research has elaborated on how nutrient depletions show up as depression, anxiety, sleeplessness. Anybody having a hard time sleeping out there? This is one of the reasons why. Antisocial behavior, addictive behavior, and even criminal behavior. In fact, neurotransmitter dysfunctions can influence food and drink choices. They actually tell you that you want more of the bad stuff, and you don't want more of the bad stuff if you want to turn it around. It is actually known that amino acids, B vitamins, and other nutrients can help restore and heal brain chemistry. Now, they used to think that brain chemistry was always the same and that it didn't regenerate cells, and they've discovered that's all bull. The brain is busy rebuilding just like every other cell in your body. It just does it a little slower. So if it took you however many years to get to this point, you're not going to snap your fingers, eat one meal of the rainbow, and turn around. You got to stick with it, because I'm looking for future health, which means that this is not a short-term plan. This is a long-term lifestyle change. The most prevalent legal drug that can create the above imbalances is sugar. Sugar interferes with every single body system in your body. Sugar does unbelievable amounts of damage. It damages your gut. It allows the wall lining of your gut to leak. It influences your liver because it doesn't know what to do with all this sugar, so it does the best it can do until it can't. And then it starts ramming even more into your blood that your blood doesn't need, which starts to make your pancreas create more insulin so that your blood cells go up, so that the sugar goes up to your cells and knocks on the door and says, hey, I want to come in. And your cells go, hey, I have been a glutton. I can't accept any more sugar. It's all based around sugar. So number one, if you're having mood swings, and if you are under a cloud, ditch the sugar. I do teach a class 4 times a year called Ditch the Sugar and Stop Eating the Crap. I just ran my 4th class. I've had incredibly great results, and people are shocked that they no longer have food calling them from the kitchen anymore. They have control and they have food freedom in 4 weeks. So if sugar is a problem for you, and if you're craving it all the time, go to my website, CherylMHealthMuse.com, and write to me and tell me you want to be on the list for the next class where you can ditch the sugar, break the addiction and the hold it has on you. You can break the addiction to all the other nasty chemicals that are in processed and fast food, and then you can improve your mood. 4 weeks, that's all I'm asking you for, to see the beginnings of long-term change. Sugar causes a post-meal hypoglycemic event, which is correlated with from phobias, self-isolation, self-harm thoughts, to rage. Food has now been shown to have a more powerful influence, and that's on your personality. Now, I was severely hypoglycemic in my 20s. If any of you are hypoglycemic, what we didn't know, because I'm now 73, so they keep learning, and I'm trying to learn with them as we go. But what they didn't know when I got hypoglycemic was that people who get hypoglycemic in their 20s almost always are diabetic in their later life, in their 70s. So pay attention if you're hypoglycemic. Ditch the sugar now. You don't want to go there. And you don't want all the havoc that it's going to create on your body and on your brain and on your mood. And what I just read you is from a functional nutritionist named Blanche Sharif, who works with a group of doctors that are doing symposiums on the liver, the heart, the kidneys, different areas of the body so that you can have the best health possible for your body. And I watch those and read constantly, and that's some of the information that I bring to you in these podcasts. An important consideration when you're dealing with sugar spikes is to realize that every time you eat, you are stimulating your insulin. So one of the worst things anybody can do is eat a poor quality, highly processed diet 24/7. That's why I'm running my class. I'm very passionate that if you just understood that you could pull away from that food and feel better, that it would be worth it for you to do it. Most of the snacking isn't around whole foods and plant foods. I bet you're snacking on potato chips and other crap, not the good stuff, not all the greens and the reds and the yellows and the blue vegetables. Most of the snacking is fast, convenient, highly addictive with tons of sodium, sugar, and other artificial flavors. The artificial flavors, by the way, are synthetic chemicals that also are doing your body harm. The exact things that are behind most major health conditions, such as type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, which is what's the cause of all of us getting COVID, heart disease, cancer, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and even thyroid problems, is that we are eating things that are converting to sugar in the standard American diet. And remember, you eat the standard American diet and all that crap, you're going to get a standard American disease, and eventually you're going to die the standard American death. So you don't want to go there. I went there. I got the standard American disease. Boy, I'm never going back over that wall. My toxic load built up and I went over, and I will always have autoimmune disease. But I have changed my lifestyle enough that I no longer have a lot of the symptoms of my autoimmune disease. So it's worth it to do it before you get sick or after you get sick. Just do it. The body is incredibly resilient. It wants to heal. So if you start to live this way, it will make a difference to your mood and to your health. It would seem that cutting out all these crappy foods would be easy, knowing the ramifications. And yet it simply isn't happening. These foods are addictive on purpose. Big Food has hired scientists that have down to the umami that it creates on the middle of your tongue and which side of your tongue tastes which kinds of things and how it feels going down and then how it processes once it's in your belly. And it always wants to have you going back for more, more, more. It turns off your two hunger hormones so you don't even know when you're filled to the gills and has your brain screaming more, 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 which is why those cookies in the kitchen keep calling your name. So this is all important. These foods are addictive and costly to our health, but they are highly profitable to the manufacturers. Big food, big drug, big ag, they don't want us to win. We are a multi-billion-dollar industry to them. So they're more than happy to keep finding ways to hook us in. But if you will stop eating the sugar and the crap, you can break its hold on you and you can defy them and eat real whole foods loaded with all those beautiful phytonutrients I talked a couple of podcasts back about. At least 30 to 40% of our population has a poor functioning digestive system. The only way to improve anyone's health is to take care of digestion, and the way to do that is with a whole food diet of all the colors of the rainbow. And why organic? Because you don't want an unhealthy dose of toxins or poison with every bite. That creates its own havoc in your body and creates its own depression in your brain. You need a whole food diet that supplies all the needed nutrients and fiber, which is vital for a well-functioning digestive system, and a well-functioning digestive system creates a well-functioning body and a well-functioning brain. Blue zones, which we've talked about in my podcasts, are areas in the world where people live the longest and the healthiest lives. Their diets include lots of carbohydrates and fiber. Now, by carbohydrates, sometimes people think that means sugar, white flour, those things. No, it doesn't mean that. Vegetables are carbohydrates, but they're carbohydrates that the body is happy to utilize. The sugar and the white stuff that we eat so much of, not so much. Body doesn't know what to do with it, and that's the stuff that's creating problems. Whole foods contain a good amount of fiber naturally. All those rainbow colors and all those plant foods are loaded with fiber. And you need the fiber because that's what grabs the toxins and gets them out of your body and also helps you get health. In all the blue zones, there are specific high fiber foods, but they vary from blue zone to blue zone. The common high fiber foods are unprocessed whole grains, beans, nuts, green vegetables straight from the garden, nuts, and herbs. And the blue zones are where the healthiest, happiest people in the world live. So pay attention to it. It's a fascinating National Geographic study. And originally they studied 4 areas in the world where people were very healthy and living well into their hundreds without disease. And they've now taken it out to another 13 communities. One of the original communities was right here in California, and it's Loma Linda, because by religious preference, they eat whole foods and they eat real food without the chemicals. And so they're amongst the happiest and the healthiest humans on the earth. There are a couple others now in the United States. I know Manhattan Beach, California is one of them. And there is a whole community in Minnesota that has agreed to the blue zone findings. And they are discovering how great it is to re-find their health with lifestyle change. They're also eating lots of nuts and herbs. Eat herbs. Grow herbs. You can grow them in your windowsill. You can grow them in the planter boxes around your house. You can grow them in little things that sit in your living room where you can grow plants. Herbs are loaded with goodness, and it adds variety and diversity into your gut bacteria, and they're unbelievably good for you. And they make your food more fun and more interesting. So herbs are an important thing to add into your menus to make your food better and to make your body function better. So to sum this up, eat organic, eat the rainbow, eat as close to the farm as possible. We go to farmers markets because I think it's also really important to know your farmer. If you're in the East Coast or someplace where farmers markets don't operate in the fall, when you can go to the farmer's market, buy when it's in season and freeze it so you have it through the winter. Or we're lucky enough now in the United States that we have offerings of organic food year-round. The closer to the farm, the better, because the closer to being picked, the more nutrition that's still in the plant. But if what you can get is organic and you can buy all the colors of the rainbow at your grocery store, for God's sakes, get them that way. Because although it won't be as loaded with nutrition, it is still power-packed with all kinds of good things for your body. We need the beautiful phytonutrients that are available from the plant kingdom, and we need to eat all those colors close together. There is a special synergy that's created when 75% of the food that we're eating is from a diverse variety of fruits and vegetables of all colors. Mental illness, which is really what we're talking about when we're talking about dark moods and depression, mental illnesses are highly prevalent, they're disabling, they're costly, and they're inadequately treated. Amongst individuals aged 15 to 44, depressive disorders are the leading cause of disability worldwide. So I want you to take this seriously because it is a dead serious subject. Improving public awareness and increasing treatment options for psychiatric illnesses is imperative for public health, and it's imperative for your health, your children's health, and your family's health. A growing evidence base, including the first randomized controlled trial, suggests that dietary patterns and food choices may play a role in the treatment and prevention of brain-based disorders, particularly depression. The first nutritional guidelines to prevent depression were just published this year. Now, this is a new area. There has not been a lot of people practicing meaning nutrition, psychology and psychiatry. But you don't have to wait for somebody to practice it. You can start to adopt all these lifestyle habits yourself now. And what I did when I first started out, because I didn't know if any of this was true or not, I thought I would give it a try for 3 months and see how I felt. And I felt so much better. I was hooked for life. So give it a try. It won't hurt you, but it might actually just be the trick that makes the difference to start healing you from the inside out. The study recommends that you follow a traditional dietary pattern, such as the Mediterranean diet, consuming adequate amounts of omega-3 fatty acids and avoiding processed foods, those high in refined carbohydrates and sugar. When people hear the word carbohydrate, they think we're talking about highly refined carbohydrates and sugar. We're not. When you hear carbohydrate without the high and the refined and the processed, we're talking about all the colors of the rainbow that will do your body good. Furthermore, on an international consortium of mental health and nutrition researchers, they recently recommended nutritional psychiatry become a routine part of mental health clinical practices. So if you're seeing somebody who isn't doing that yet, who isn't practicing this yet because it's brand new, you own your body, you own what you put into your mouth, so adopt it on your own. Food categories and mean antidepressant scores. Vegetables, 48%. Organ meats, 25%. Fruits, 20%. Seafood, 16%. Legumes and meats are at 8%, and grains and seeds and nuts are at 5%. So if you are working with a doctor, give him those numbers, because then he will help support you make your lifestyle changes while you may be trying other therapies. I'm not saying don't do the other therapies, okay? I'm not a doctor. I recommend lifestyle changes, which can be life-changing. Detox off the sugar. 90% of the problem is in the processed, concentrated, enormously large quantities of sugar that people are taking in by eating the standard American diet and all the crap. And by the way, there is a group now calling the standard American diet, which I call the SAD, because it's a very sad diet, but that's standard American diet. They're now calling it the MAD diet because it makes you mad because it ruins your mood. It is the mood-changing diet. So people are dead serious about this, so pay attention. So now I want to talk about gut health and how it works and why it happens. Because there's only so much space in your gut. The good bacteria live in a very precarious situation in there with the bad bacteria. One thing you might want to ask your doctor is they can do a test that will tell them how many good bacteria do you have and how many bad bacteria do you have, and are they in a balance that's acceptable for your body? In a healthy and balanced gut, the colonies of beneficial bacteria are stronger and more plentiful than the pathogenic bacteria. When I first got tested the first time, I didn't have very many bad bacteria, so I was lucky. That was not a reason that I toppled over into toxic load. I toppled over into toxic load because of all the toxins in my life and because of all the stress of me running and owning my own business. There were lots of reasons why I toppled over, but it wasn't because of my gut bacteria. I, however, then bought a probiotic juice directly from the farm that gave me a family of nasty little guys, unlike what my functional doctor, had ever seen. And so I know what it's like when your gut is out of order with all those nasty little bad bacteria, because it took me a very long time to bring my gut back into balance after I drank that juice. When bacteria overwhelms the good, the delicate balance of the gut microbiome balance is thrown completely off, which creates a condition called dysbiosis. Dysbiosis creates symptoms such as digestive issues, including irritable bowel syndrome. You'll have trouble sleeping. You'll have skin issues, including rashes and eczema. You'll get autoimmune disorders. You could get type 1 diabetes, and it is directly responsible for mood disorders, which is what our focus is on today, such as anxiety and depression. You've heard me say this many times, you are what you eat, and your gut bacteria are a result of what you eat. So what you feed your gut bacteria makes a difference in terms of what they are and whether they're happy or whether they're sad and dark and moody, and that's what goes up your vagus nerve. Your gut and your brain are actually in constant deep communication throughout the day. The main phone line that connects them is that nerve known as the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a major part of the autonomic nervous system that enables you to automatically breathe, swallow, and digest food. So that nerve is part of that same stuff, all those things you do automatically without thinking about them. It allows for two-way communications between your gut and your brain, and your brain and your gut. Your gut sends signals to the brain, and it returns signals right back. In this way, it directly influence and affect each other. If somebody is suffering from poor health, then your brain or your gut will also be suffering from poor health, because the communication goes both ways. And here's one of the most important things to know about the vagus nerve. It connects your gut to the part of your brain known as the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus releases hormones, regulates body temperature, controls appetite and thirst, and regulates all of your emotional responses. Pretty important part of the brain. So a part of your gut that's in control of your emotions is in direct communication via the vagus nerve to the part of your brain that regulates emotional responses. Pretty nifty stuff to understand. And I do believe that knowledge is power. So probiotics. Everybody's gut is teeming with both good and bad. They have both good and bad gut bacteria. It's the balance of the two that determines whether or not your gut is healthy. Your goal has to be to create a gut microbiome that allows the beneficial bacteria in your gut to flourish, encouraging thriving colonies that crowd out the bad gut bacteria. To make sure your gut is sending healthy messages to your brain, you want to encourage and do everything in your power to have good bacteria in your gut. So let's talk about what you can do about that. One of the most effective ways to accomplish that is with probiotic-friendly foods. These are the specific foods that naturally contain beneficial bacteria. And by consuming them, you increase the amount of good bugs already in your gut. There are some delicious options for probiotic-friendly foods to include in your diet. Kefir, kimchi, kombucha tea, miso, pickles, coconut yogurt, sauerkraut, sourdough bread, and tempeh are all yummy, and they're all probiotic-friendly foods. Adding these foods to your diet restores the crucial balance to your gut, which in turn has it sending the right messages to your brain via the vagus nerve. In fact, in recent studies, they have shown that daily probiotic supplements can reduce symptoms of both anxiety and depression. So if you're under a dark cloud, I want you to go and get some probiotic foods. Let's start changing the family of gut bacteria right away. That takes you, bam, 2 seconds when you're at the store to pick up some probiotic foods and add them to your daily diet. As with any supplement, make sure that what you buy is high grade, that it comes from a reputable source, not like the juice that I bought from the farmer, and that you are taking them as indicated. Fiber. Fiber is essential to your diet for many reasons. It normalizes your bowel movements. It helps lower your blood sugar and your cholesterol. It helps you maintain a healthy weight. It keeps your blood sugar even, and it directly impacts your mood swings. So fiber is wonderful. It grabs the toxins and takes them out of your body. It maintains your blood sugar. It helps you with high cholesterol, and it helps you maintain a healthy weight. Wow, pretty fantastic stuff. But fiber is also a necessary factor when it comes to gut health. Now, by fiber, where I'd like you to get your fiber from, I do take, and I do recommend in my class, that everybody takes a PGX fiber pill. It's easier to take it in a pill because if you buy it loose and you try to stir it in water, it clumps down at the bottom of the glass, and then it's kind of icky to drink. So buy the capsules. Buy the PGX capsules. Start taking those every day. But then look up what the high fiber foods are, because they're all vegetables and fruits. You don't ever want a juice without the fiber, so put it into your blender, not through your juicer, because you want all that fabulous fiber because it's so good for you. Your body has a difficult time breaking down certain fibers, and luckily the good bugs in your intestines step in and they digest them, and it makes them very happy. They actually eat them. At the same time, these fibers, aka the prebiotics, strengthen your good gut bacteria by providing them all the healthy fuel they need to thrive. So everybody in your gut wins. Pretty cool. And that's just its effect on your gut health. Consuming fiber is also one of the top things you can do to boost your mental health. So how do you find what foods are high in fiber? You go on Google and you write in high in fiber and you click images, and all the fruits and vegetables will show up on little square visuals that you can print one off and put it on your refrigerator so that you're sure to include all those foods. I talk about them at length in my class, but if you're not taking my class, you can look that up yourself. It doesn't take very long, and then just implement. Start eating those foods. And that's inflammation can be a cause of depression because it may affect the level of the neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. Most of your serotonin they used to think was made in your brain. They now know it's actually made in the lining of your gut. Dopamine is from the back of your brain somewhere. I know that because my mother had Parkinson's and she was very low on dopamine. Dysregulated serotonin and dopamine levels are a key chemical cause of depression and other mood disorders. So it's important to eat enough fiber to break the cycle of bad health conditions. Eating legumes and nuts at least once a week can act as a protective factor for depression. And why do you think that is? Because legumes and nuts are very high in fiber. What are the prebiotic foods you can eat to make sure that you are feeding your good gut bacteria all the right prebiotic foods that will make them happy? I want you to eat onions, garlic, artichoke, jicama, leeks, rye, chicory, blueberries, raspberries, plantains, bananas, asparagus, dandelion greens. They're good for your liver and your gallbladder too. So add some bitters in there like arugula and dandelion greens. Apples. Apples are loaded with pectin. That's a fiber that your liver loves as well as your gut. Barley, burdock root, cocoa, flaxseed, Jerusalem artichokes. Have you ever eaten Jerusalem artichokes? I had never eaten them before. They look like little turmeric roots or little ginger roots, and they're actually called Jerusalem artichokes. I peel them, I toss them in ghee and garlic and onion seasoning, and then I roast them in my oven, and they are yummy. Little sea salt on top. Just don't eat the whole bag when you buy them all at once, because if you're not used to eating them, they will go straight through you because they are so loaded with fiber. But they're really good for you. So roast a couple and put them on the side of your plate and eat them with your other vegetables. Konjac root, not sure I know what that is, but that's on the list. Legumes, which are peas and beans, pulses, oats, seaweed, and soybeans. But if you're going to eat soybeans, make them organic, because 93% of soybeans are genetically modified, which means they have that nasty Bt toxin in them, so that when a bug bites it, it blows them up. But unfortunately, when it gets into your gut, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And when your gut bacteria come in contact with Bt toxin, they all die too. So you don't want it genetically modified. You can also take a quality prebiotic. I take Claire, that's a Klare, prebiotics and probiotics. Other fiber-rich foods in your diet: brown rice, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, popcorn, quinoa, and then most of the vegetables have fairly high fiber. The other wonderful thing about vegetables is they're very alkaline. So if you have any kind of acid reflux, you don't need some kind of pill that your doctor's going to give you. If you're on it, don't stop, but start to eat all the rainbow colors, because as your stomach becomes more alkaline, you will have less and less problem with your stomach acid, so that you don't need those pills, which do have all kinds of nasty things they do as a side effect. So start doing the things that you can do that you have power over right away. Other lifestyle habits that impact your mood: a sedentary lifestyle. You want to do regular exercise, because that's linked to good mental health, but a sedentary lifestyle is associated with depression in people of all ages. An interesting side note is, while exercise initially produces inflammatory ketones, which are associated with depression, an induction of anti-inflammatory substances quickly will follow. This is known as the hormonic effect, and where there is an initial stressor creating a compensatory response in the body that has long-term consequences that are positive for your health. Yoga, as a method of movement, actually unleashes your GABA, which is one of your feel-good hormones. It's a natural remedy for anxiety, and that's because yoga impacts our brain's GABA levels. And GABA is short for, and God, you know how I mispronounce words, gamma aminobutyric acid, sometimes referred to as your body's chill-out neurotransmitter. GABA is crucial for suppressing neural activity. Your GABA neurotransmitters produce a calming effect similar to that of drinking alcohol, without the alcohol and the downside of the alcohol and the harmful effect of the alcohol. And of course, alcohol's calming effects are only temporary, whereas GABA is long-term. And so you want to lower your anxiety by raising your GABA levels, because they often keep rising even after the buzz starts to wear off. Yoga bumps up your natural GABA production without traditional anti-anxiety drugs designed to help your body release GABA. Yoga is the most important form of exercise to combat anxiety, thanks to its unique breathing. Now, I've talked about breathing. I have a whole class about reducing stress by breathing. And what breathing does is it resets what's called your reptilian brain, which is your parasympathetic nervous system. Yoga breathing does that as well. And so it's unique breathing, meditative, and stretching exercise all rolled into one practice. While there are many different forms of yoga, I encourage you to start out with a gentle yoga and experiment it to find the type that works best for you. You'll be happier because you're practicing yoga. The next thing is also about a sedentary lifestyle. If you get moving, that's also an effective treatment for all types of depression, including seasonal depression. It releases your endorphins, which are more feel-good hormones, which can greatly improve your mood and reduce your symptoms of depression. Exercise can improve your sleep at night, and a good night's sleep will help you feel less exhausted and more active during the day and lessen your feelings of depression. At first, your depression-caused fatigue might make it difficult for you to begin a new exercise habit. So if that's the case, ease into it slowly. Opt for low-impact forms of exercise such as yoga, tai chi, or walking. Dancing around the house is another great option, especially if you listen to happy, uplifting music. And by the way, laugh. Look at yourself in the mirror and just start laughing. It's practically impossible to have a dark mood if you're listening to yourself or if you're laughing with your friends. Laugh heartily, laugh often. It's so good for you, and it also will release endorphins. Endorphins are endogenous opioids, and they are actually peptide hormones in humans and other animals and produced and stored in the pituitary gland. So, a little aside on what are endorphins. They are a popular term for chemical substances known as opiate peptides. Which neurochemicals qualify as endorphins, and what do endorphins exactly do? Endorphins include, here we go, enkephalins and diorphins, substances associated with feelings of pleasure, sexuality, sensuality, euphoria, and pain relief. Essentially, endorphins promote a sort of bliss, providing a sense of well-being. Low levels of endorphins are associated with the opposite effects: physical, emotional pain, including chronic pain linked to disorders like fibromyalgia, addiction, and higher incidence of risk-taking behaviors. So if you don't have endorphins, that's when you get emotional pain and chronic pain. When you do have endorphins, which you can promote with yoga and with other movement. And by the way, what I use is my mini trampoline, which is a rebounder, because it's also good for getting all the sludge out of my body. It moves my lymph, which is picking up the garbage around all my cells, so it's a win-win. And it does raise my mood. So it's a great way to get this all done. Through the production of certain neurotransmitters, the pituitary gland in your brain sends the signal that releases these particular endorphins depending upon the situation. And then that binds them to neuron receptors. There's also evidence that the immune system releases certain endorphins based on rising levels of inflammation, which is a mechanism useful for dulling pain. Endorphins, you want to hack your biology to manufacture endorphins. They're natural opiate peptide chemicals, and they help you feel focused, pleasure, less pain, euphoria, bliss, and they improve your mood. Pretty nifty. You get them by exercising regularly. You get them from eating a healthy diet, including enough protein that helps you produce serotonin. You want to avoid processed foods for many reasons, because they're going to interfere with your brain chemistry. You want to eat amino-rich foods like seeds, nuts, beans, lentils, peas, and sprouted grains. Even veggies like broccoli, spinach, and cauliflower help you release endorphins. Eat antioxidant-rich foods to combat mental illness, inducing free radicals. So you want leafy greens, sweet potatoes, squash, citrus, berries, alfalfa sprouts, and broccoli. You want to eat healthy fats and essential fatty acids, which actually produce endorphin-promoting hormones. You want to eat wild-caught Alaskan salmon, Pacific sardines, coconut and olive oil, nuts, seeds, and avocados. And then my ghee is a CLA oil that's really good for you. And avocados are great for you. If you could eat an avocado a day, it would do wonders for your body. And then avoid excess alcohol and caffeine because it dampers down the endorphins. You think you're doing yourself a favor by raising your mood that way. You're not. And then laugh more. Laughter releases endorphins, and studies show that laughter is linked to an elevated pain threshold. Okay? Other lifestyle improvements. Get out into nature. I find it practically impossible to have a dark mood if I'm walking around where there are just unbelievably gorgeous things in nature to take my attention away from whatever pity party I have going on in my head. And I know that being depressed is not always because you're just feeling sad for yourself. It's actually chemically being induced in your mind from all the things that we're talking about. But get out into nature because there is so much to be grateful for, and we live in such a marvelous, wondrous world. It will help you get an attitude adjustment. Practice mindfulness and start a meditation practice. Clean up the toxins in your products and your environment. If you want to know where to start with that, my first book was how I researched, where I researched, what I found, and what I replaced all those yucky, toxic products with. So I wrote the book to give you a guide. I share everything I did, everything I found, and everything I use. And don't let it overwhelm you. If you buy my book, it's available on Amazon. It's called It Feels Good to Feel Good. Learn to eliminate toxins and reduce inflammation. If you buy my book, write to me on my email and I'll send you a workbook because you're not going to do it all at once. It took me 5 years to do that. But each toxin removed from your health is one step closer to health and one step closer to a better mood. Sleep. Build your social community and your social connections. Number one on the chart of health from the blue zones is community. And make time for play. Let your little inner child come out. Be silly. Do all kinds of silly things. It's important that you play. I found that when you're depressed, this is Dan Buettner's quote from the Blue Zones. He's the man who's running that project. I found that if you're depressed, that when you do something for somebody else, you lift your mood dramatically. So if you're finding yourself in a hole, find somebody who needs your help. Find an organization that you can go and help out at. You'll form a community and you'll do good for somebody else. And believe it or not, what you put out comes back to you, so that too will raise your mood. And then there is new emerging clinical research that suggests that the intake of apple cider vinegar, and I would use the one from Bragg's that has the mother in it, or another, there are other brands that have the mother in it, but you need all the healthy bacteria that's in that mother. It improves mood in healthy adults. So I actually love the taste of apple cider vinegar, so sip a tablespoon of it every day, and that will help your mood, and it's actually been proven in clinical studies. While I think that mental health is a complicated subject with many mechanisms, and that all of this will work for all people, I do know that the scientific literature that the gut microbiome is playing a significant role. And it would be of interest to have continued research in this area to understand how apple cider vinegar could actually establish a better gut biome and how that will ultimately translate into better mood. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I have plenty to go to another show. And in the next show, we're going to start talking about if you have dark moods, what is the supplementation that I want you to think about taking? Now, when I talk supplements, I'm not a doctor, so I want you to run it past your doctor because I don't want to recommend anything that's going to interfere with any other medication that he has you on. But we're going to go through them all, and some of the people that I am going to share with you are doctors that are specifically working with people for depression, not from the psychonutritional point of view, but from the physical point of view and what you can do to increase your B vitamins and your C that will help your mood. So that's where we'll start next week. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you're learning a lot. I consider all of these to be puzzle pieces that have helped me regain my own health, and I hope that I'm sharing puzzle pieces with you that will help you find your future health by putting all these puzzle pieces into place. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week. Hello, could I see a show of hands if there's anybody out there like me who's tried to lose weight their whole life and not been successful? So you've tried all the different diets available. You've tried Weight Watcher. You've tried Jenny Craig. You've tried all the New York Times bestsellers. And the last time you did it, you started off great, just like all the other times. And you started losing weight, and then all of a sudden you fell off the horse. And before you know it, you're eating fast food and processed food again with all that sugar, and you don't even know why. And in the end, you've gained more weight than where you started out. So you now are beating yourself up that you just don't have the willpower to win. If that's you, I want to address the elephant in the room, because 9 years ago, I got autoimmune disease and started researching because I didn't want the pain that came with the autoimmune disease, and the added benefit was I lost the weight along the way. So let me tell you what happens. Big Food doesn't want you to win. They've rigged the system. They've put so many chemicals into fast food and processed food that they light up the brain like a pinball machine. It's the same part of the brain that goes off for cocaine and heroin, and you feel great when you eat that food, but it's not making you feel good, and you're starving your body for nutrition because it's loaded with empty calories, so you're getting fat eating that food, and it's not giving your body what you need. And it's turning off all your own feel-good hormones of serotonin and dopamine and even your insulin, which keep your moods even. But worse than that, there's two little hormones here at the back of your neck called ghrelin and leptin, and they don't work, and they regulate your appetite because all those chemicals have subdued them, so you don't even know when you're full. So what did I learn to do instead? I'm eating the GLAD diet, loaded with all the phytonutrients that my body needs to be healthy and to thrive and to boost my immune system and to ditch the pain. And along the way of eating all this live food, I lost 60 pounds without dieting. You see, I was starving my body for nutrition when I was eating the standard American diet, and now that I'm giving my body all those beautiful phytonutrients, it's not holding on to it anymore, so it's just dropping it automatically. So don't eat the standard American diet. I don't want you to get a standard American disease, and I certainly don't want you to die the standard American death. Instead, start eating the GLAD diet, because by eating all those beautiful phytonutrients, you will be healthier and you will live long and thrive. Thank you.